Imagine this: you walk into an Apple store, expecting the usual lineup. iPhones, iPads, MacBooks. But then your eyes land on something small, almost unassuming. A box, sleek, compact, minimal. The Mac Mini. And here's the kicker: inside this little box, Apple has just placed the new M5 chip. What happens when the most overlooked Mac gets Apple's most powerful brain? The benchmarks are not just good, they're insane. And today, we're going to break down whether this upgrade is the revolution Apple claims, or just clever marketing. Let me set the stage. For years, the Mac Mini was Apple's entry-level desktop. Affordable, compact, reliable. But with the M-series chips, everything changed. Suddenly, this tiny box could keep up with laptops, even outperform them. And now, with the M5, Apple isn't just pushing the boundaries, it's tearing them apart. Early benchmark leaks show jaw-dropping performance gains. We're talking about multi-core scores rivaling machines that cost 3, 4, even 5 times as much. The M5 Mac Mini is basically a supercar engine inside a hatchback. Small outside, monstrous inside. But here's the twist. Numbers only tell half the story. What do these insane benchmarks actually mean for real life? If you're editing 4K video, the M5 cuts through it like butter. If you're rendering 3D models, it shaves hours off your workflow. If you're coding, compiling huge projects, running simulations, or even training small AI models, this thing keeps up. And here's a mini hook: some early testers say the M5 Mac Mini isn't just beating Intel and AMD desktops, it's embarrassing them. Machines drawing 3 times the power, running fans at jet engine speed, losing to a device the size of a lunchbox. Now let's talk about efficiency. Apple Silicon has always been about performance per watt. And with the M5, they've doubled down. The Mac Mini stays cool under load, it sips power, and it stays almost silent even when pushed to its limits. That's not just engineering, it's strategy. Apple knows people want power without the heat, noise, and energy bill of a traditional desktop. Imagine editing a feature-length film in your bedroom without your computer turning into a space heater. That's the future Apple is selling. And the GPU? Oh, this is where things get crazy. The M5's graphics core is rumored to rival dedicated GPUs from NVIDIA's mid-range line. Let that sink in. A Mac Mini, no discrete GPU, no massive fans, pulling frame rates in games and pro apps that used to demand a tower PC. Now sure, the Mac isn't a gaming machine, but if you're into creative work, Final Cut, Blender, DaVinci Resolve, the GPU boost changes everything. Suddenly, the Mac Mini isn't just an entry-level Mac, it's a workstation killer. But there's another layer here. Apple isn't just chasing speed, they're building for the future of AI. The M5 chip comes with a massively upgraded neural engine. Translation? On-device machine learning. Smarter video upscaling, lightning-fast photo edits, real-time transcription, AI-driven music creation, even game physics simulations, all running locally, instantly. And here's where curiosity spikes: is Apple quietly preparing the Mac Mini to be the cheapest entry point into the Apple Intelligence ecosystem? A tiny machine, powerful enough to be your AI hub at home. Still, you might wonder, if the M5 Mac Mini is this good, what's the catch? Apple always has a catch, right? The answer may lie in memory and ports. Rumor has it Apple might limit the base models, pushing you toward upgrades. Sure, the chip is insane, but will you be stuck with 8 GB RAM by default? Will storage upgrades cost more than your rent? That's classic Apple strategy: hook you with performance, lock you with pricing. But before we dive into pricing traps, let's pause. Because the real suspense is this: does the M5 Mac Mini make every other Mac irrelevant? Why buy a MacBook Pro if a Mac Mini at half the price outperforms it? Why get a Mac Studio if the Mini is closing the gap? Apple doesn't design by accident. They want you to think about this, to question where the Mac lineup even goes from here. And in the second half of this video, we're going to explore exactly that. How the M5 Mac Mini stacks up against the MacBook Pro, the iMac, even the Mac Studio. We'll talk about who should buy it, who shouldn't, and why these benchmarks might mark a turning point in Apple's desktop future. Stick around, because the ending to this story is wild. Here's where things get really interesting. Let's put the M5 Mac Mini against Apple's other Macs. On one side, you've got the MacBook Pro, portable, premium, iconic. On the other, the Mac Studio, Apple's Pro desktop. So where does the Mini fit? Well, if the leaks are true, the M5 Mac Mini actually beats the M3 MacBook Pro in certain multi-core tasks. Think about that for a second. A machine costing less, fitting in the palm of your hand, outperforming a laptop Apple just called Pro. That alone is mind-blowing. Now let's compare it to the Mac Studio. The Studio still has more headroom for extreme workflows, higher RAM ceilings, more GPU cores, more cooling. But here's the suspense: if the M5 Mac Mini is this powerful, how much longer before the gap closes? Are we looking at a future where the Mac Mini becomes the default Pro desktop, while the Studio becomes ultra-niche? Apple has always blurred the lines between their devices, but with M5, the lines are nearly gone. So, who's this Mac Mini actually for? If you're a student, a creator, or someone who wants insane power without dropping thousands, this is your dream machine. Small desk? No problem. Need to toss it in a backpack? Done. Want a home server, a media center, or even a compact AI workstation? The Mac Mini nails it. But, and here's the hook, it's not for everyone. If you rely on portability, the MacBook Pro still makes sense. If you're pushing 3D animations with terabytes of assets, the Mac Studio or Mac Pro still has advantages. But for 90% of people, the M5 Mac Mini might be the sweet spot. Let's talk pricing, because this is where Apple usually flips the script. If they keep the entry price the same as the M2 and M1 versions, this could be Apple's stealth move to dominate the desktop market. A performance monster for under $1,000. But if Apple plays the classic upsell game, base model 2 limited, real performance locked behind upgrades, you'll need to be smart about configurations. My advice? Don't just buy the base. Stretch for more memory. Go for at least 16 gigabytes. Because with power like this, you don't want to bottleneck the system. Another mini hook here, the ports. Rumors suggest Apple might expand I/O this time. More Thunderbolt, faster HDMI, maybe even a higher-end Ethernet option. If that's true, the Mac Mini isn't just small, it's versatile. Imagine hooking up multiple 6K monitors to a device smaller than your lunchbox. That's the kind of power we're talking about. Now, let's zoom out. Why does the M5 Mac Mini matter in the bigger Apple story? Because it proves Apple's chip strategy is paying off. They've broken free from Intel. They're building chips that outperform rivals, sip power, and make desktops exciting again. And by putting that power into the Mac Mini, the most accessible Mac, they're planting a flag. Apple is saying, the future of computing doesn't have to be big, loud, or expensive. It can be small, silent, and insanely fast. And here's the final suspense, the emotional side. Think about it. For years, people ignored the Mac Mini. It was the budget Mac, the starter Mac, the one you bought if you couldn't afford the real thing. But now? With the M5, it's the underdog turned champion. The David taking down Goliaths. The little box proving size doesn't matter when brains are this good. And that's why people are excited. Because everyone loves a comeback story. So, is it worth the upgrade? If you own an M1 or Intel Mac Mini, the leap is massive. If you're on M2, you'll still notice big gains, especially in GPU and AI tasks. And if you're brand new to Mac, this might be the best entry point Apple has ever offered. The benchmarks don't lie, the M5 Mac Mini is insane. And once you experience it, you'll never look at this little box the same way again.